right, we're back from vacation. It's episode 96 of We Were Gamers, a podcast today about books. Sit down with me, friends.
Sit by this fireplace while we all put on our smoking jackets and let us engage masterpiece reading theater.
I'm going to channel my inner Mr. Rogers here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you nailed it. That's the right way to go. I was thinking more like LeVar Burton-y.
Oh, okay.
Oh, also
reading Rainbow
choice.
style?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to make everybody sit Indian style on the floor.
That's real bad for my back.
We're not kids anymore, Andy.
Look, I know you have kids and that like sitting on the floor is a thing for children, but as an adult, I would rather just stand.
I'm going to throw out a pro-parenting tip for the audience members that may care. On your first child, there's a wonderful thing where you can actually lay down on the floor and parent them for about a year. I'm just saying.
You mean napping?
Yeah.
Sleeping.
No, I mean they don't really go anywhere. So you can kind of just like lay there instead, you know what I mean? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just for those of us that have weaker area of the body that is our backs. Sometimes it's nice. That little hard surface is nice.
I understand that. I get behind that.
Yeah. All right. We were on vacation last week. That was a fun little episode. Michael, I'm sorry you weren't there because we ended up getting into even further discussion on The Last Jedi afterwards.
Yes. It was a good one to listen to.
But we were all on vacation, right? I mean, JJ and I were in Mexico at a wonderful wedding. Congratulations to the Kirchers.
Yes, indeed. It was a fantastic time. Congratulations to all of them. And we hope that the best man gets better.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he got the full Montezuma, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It supposedly was quite bad. I didn't hear how he has been doing since, but so hopefully, whatever drugs they put him on were good.
Yeah, I saw there was some Pedialyte talk and a doctor, etc. Scott, we hope you're better. Irrespective of Scott's unfortunate situation, Sean and Linda's wedding was amazing.
Yes, it was.
They had a wonderful time down there in Mexico, I hope. And Michael, you just got back from Cincinnati.
Yes, also for a wedding.
It's that season.
It was, yeah.
It really is.
Started already.
Yeah, it's just spring is earlier and earlier. You gotta get that good weather.
Yeah.
But we've all spent a little bit of time on planes and on vacation, and we compared notes before the show. And one thing we all had in common was books. And so there's still going to be game talk on here. We got some news. A lot of us have been trying out a few new games, some old games. There's going to be games. But I want to hear what everybody read, because I read 2 books. It was awesome.
Dang.
Dude, it was...
Okay.
I have not read that hard in so long, but I read hard.
Okay. Do you read hard? Is that how people read? Is that a
full contact reading?
Yeah. We're like book all the way up in the face. Like, is that considered hard? I don't know how you count.
This ain't no flag reading. I'm just saying, like pads and all.
Okay.
Well, so I have 2 little ones, and one of them naps twice a day still. And so while on vacation, when everyone's at the beach, it's not really feasible for that one to nap at the beach. So one of us had to be in the room, and being removed from my computer and the responsibility of said other child does not happen much. So I can book hard.
So what did you book?
I actually booked some nonfiction, which was silly. The first one was Dreamland, which is about the American opioid crisis. So not that enjoyable of a topic.
Not enjoyable, a not enjoyable topic, but perhaps a good read, actually?
Oh, a fantastic factual read, and a book that has taken me. It's very dense. It's very, very dense. Lays out a lot of problems in the American healthcare system, and the amazing response by a lot of different doctors and public servants to try and combat the opioid crisis in America. So It's a slower read than other reads, and you requires attention because there's a lot of moving parts. But this is a tough book to get through overall, especially for people that know, people that have struggled with, let's say, what's the right word for it? I think they call it
substance abuse.
No. So substance abuse, yes, but the right word for it is chronic pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people get started.
Yeah, so like a lot of the way that chronic pain, people that will suffer pain despite everything a doctor can do, it has been tough to combat in the system, and they're the ones that have been fallen under the unfortunate spell of this. So it was a tough read there. And then I moved on to another tough read of fiction called Brave Deeds, which is a book about the First Iraq War, but it's a fiction book. Fictionalized nonfiction, right? Which was an easier read, but also not an easier read. Anyway, these are the type of books I like to read when not reading high fiction or sci-fi. But it was awesome.
Good. It's good to take a break a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's my usual stable of things is like comic, sci-fi, comic, high fantasy, comic, nonfiction, then cycle back through, you know? So This was my break from fantasy for a little while in the reading department, but it was awesome. I don't know. Did you guys get that much time to read, JJ? What'd you get through?
I had been in progress of reading the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson.
How is it?
It is great. I really like those first two books a lot. I did eventually finally get through the third book, which is one of the longest books I think I've ever seen. I have it digitally on my Kindle, so I haven't, but I saw a physical copy of it in a store, and it is maybe the thickest book that isn't a Bible that I've seen on sale anywhere. It's a long book, but it is great. Brandon Sanderson knows how to write page turners, and after those first two books, I am very interested in that world and those characters, and I think the third one, while it doesn't focus on, I think, maybe my favorite character in that series, it definitely goes places. A little slower, maybe more political than the previous two books, which have a bit more action in them.
Oh, this is like the Cold War part of it, right? They went through the action, and now they got to go through the drama.
Yeah, maybe there's there's kingdom building that happens, let's say. So that's not necessarily an action-packed sequence. But the book was good. I did enjoy it. And then after I polished that off, I went back to something that might be a little more dear to your and my hearts, Andrew. I was rereading some of the BattleTech novellas.
I'm peeking my mic. Yes. How are they?
I've read the first two already, but it was back when they came out, so it's been quite a while. And the third one just came out recently. And so I'm reading the first two again before I move into the third one. And they're great. I loved them before, when I read them initially, ways back. They are, it's a pretty, cliched, I guess, story of, a seasoned mercenary mech warrior gets hired to help a young, corporate chairman, and then things go sideways and stuff happens. And adventures ensue.
I guess we should background this a little bit. Michael Stackpole is the writer of these, who has written most of the BattleTech novels, and for people that like the Star Wars universe, a lot of those X-Wing novels were his as well. And this is supposed to be tertiary prequel to the, hey, we can talk about games here, the upcoming BattleTech game.
Yeah, and I don't know how much this is actually going to be related to the game at all. I think it takes place in the time frame where the game takes place, but I have no idea if the planets are nearby or anything at all. So don't quote me on any of that. But it's good. It is a fun read, and it's cool to hear them talk about they're walking their various types of mechs down the alleys and looking for heat signatures and all that kind of fun stuff.
Ooh, now hey.
Even if mechs are actually not the majority of the time spent, there's a lot of non-mech time for sure.
You can't have all mech time. Then the mech time's not special.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you can't... If you swim in your pool all year round, then... I don't know. That metaphor doesn't really work. What is that BattleTech release date? April.
That's all they've said.
Okay.
They have not given a date.
Okay. That's good. Oh, I'm so excited. All right.
I am also.
Before we get into mech talk, because there's other mechs to talk about. Michael, books? Bore people with books?
So we had 4 flights over the weekend, 2 back and 2 forth, and mine divided pretty neatly. So the first flight each way, I broke out the 3DS, and then the second flight each way was book time. So my reading list was it was throwback, and it was preparatory reading. Have you guys read any of the books in the Wrinkle in Time series?
No.
I think I read the very first one, but it was a long time ago.
That movie's coming this coming month.
This coming weekend.
Oh.
Gosh, time. What?
Wrinkled.
Yeah. Womp.
That didn't... All right, you didn't have to thud it. It just landed on its own. Okay?
Drive the point home.
How are those books? I mean, clearly they're good. Oprah likes them.
They're good. I read them. So I read them the first time, probably as a tween-ish. But I only read the first 3, I think. And then I went back sometime during college and reread the first 3 and then tacked on the last 2, read through all 5. And I've been meaning to get back to them, knowing that the movie was coming up here real soon, and decided, you know what, going to be on a plane for a while. Let's start reading them again.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And they're good. They hold up really well.
And I know that first book is like a true classic. People really have held that book up over the years. Are the other books in the series also good?
Yes. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the rest of them. As I recall, it's been so many years since I've read them, but I remember enjoying all of them, the whole arc of the story.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, so I think all of those are book recommends. There you go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We were gamers. We were also readers. The podcast. All right, let's work backwards, Michael. You also said you brought out your DS. I think it's time to get into some games, because I know we've been off a little bit of time, and I've had some time for games, and you've already mentioned you put out your DS on those flights. What's up?
Yes, I did. So I finally had the chance to dive into the meat of the latest game in the Layton series, Catriel and the Millionaire's Conspiracy.
Okay, so Professor Layton,
which is also
right?
Yes, he's gone. His daughter has opened up a detective agency. She's trying to make a name for herself. And so that's where this one starts. And I had launched it just to get far enough to play into the daily puzzles. We talked about that on a past episode, but this was my first chance to dive into the story, and it wasn't quite what I expected. You've probably gotten this from working your way through the first game.
I'm close on that one.
Yeah, so the story in that is one overarching story, and there are several mysteries built in along the way.
Yeah, you really kind of like get distracted more than anything. It's kind of like, okay, well, who murdered this person? Because clearly they were murdered or something, and also who gets the inheritance, but also there's a missing cat.
Right.
Sometimes no one's going to talk to you unless you find that cat.
100% true.
Yes, exactly. You have to find the cat to move the story along. But this one is different in that the mysteries are episodic. So you get a mystery, you solve the mystery, the episode closes, and you move on to the next episode. And they're sequential in time, but once you've closed one out, it's done.
Now, is that a better structure for you since you played through most of these games already? Do you like that better or no?
I can't decide. So I just reached the point, and I saw this coming. I just reached the point where after the third or fourth mystery you solve, they give you 4 of them at once.
Oh, okay.
And then it becomes sort of it becomes a choose your own adventure at that point. And they did that to some extent in the last of the Professor Layton games, where you're traveling around the world and you have 5 different cities to go to, and you can pick the order that you go to them in, and everything converges again at the end. But it wasn't quite this linear. So I don't know. I'll have to see. I think I liked the old style better, but I'll have to see if, now that there are branching choices, if they start to weave more of a story to tie them all together that then comes back into something larger towards the end.
Now, puzzle games are interesting to me, and since you and I have kind of been delving back into them a little bit, and I've talked about Picross on this before. It's like you get those 2 genres where either you play the Layton genre, where it's all kind of like brain teasers or brain age style stuff, where you kind of puzzles vary, or you go into the Picross or the word cross or all the other types of singular puzzles where this is how the puzzle functions, and I'm going to get a million different variations only on this puzzle. In the Layton series, especially in the first one, and this probably changed towards the end, and I'm curious what you think about that. It's very clearly in the first game they had like 5 sets of puzzles, and it was like, okay, these are all the math ones, and the math ones work like this. You either like have a algebra problem or like a division problem, and you have to figure out how to get to setting up the equation, or you have like a trace the root problem, or you have we had 5 or 6 genres, and they got progressively more complicated, but you kind of kept seeing the same ones over and over. And preview my beef with that game a little bit is kind of like I got a little bit bored of the puzzles by then. It's like I don't really want to put water into jugs anymore. Like I've done that too many times. Or there's the Picross style of game where you just have those singular. What did they end up doing now at the end of this series? Is it all the same? I mean, this is like 11 games later. Do they change up the formula of puzzles?
So they still do the sets thing. You'll definitely still see, even into this game, I have seen the same type of puzzle recur once or twice, but they don't do it as much, and they also increase the number of sets. So rather than like 6 puzzles in 10 sets, now you might get 3 puzzles in 20 sets. So it increases the diversity of the puzzles that you see, which I think helps keep you engaged a little bit more. It prevents the monotony from setting in.
Breadth versus depth. A little bit.
Got to widen that puzzle base.
Yeah, and I think it works out well to do it that way.
Sweet. So other than, you've been gone from your house, so there's no Xenoblade.
No Xenoblade, no first chapter.
Gotcha. Right on. Well, that's okay. It's good for us not to be all mired in RPGs all the time, I think. Speaking of which, JJ, you just finished a longer game.
Yeah, I got through I had been playing Super Mario Odyssey here and there a little bit when I needed a break from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 way back several episodes ago. And, Mario is like one of those games where you can just like jump on and play a little bit and grab a couple moons or whatever and then kind of be good. But I eventually had been playing that for a while and then realized, I think I'm fighting Bowser. This is probably near the end.
Spoiler.
And lo and behold, you fight Bowser at the end of that game. Spoilers. But that is not the end. There is more moons to be collected, significantly more. But the credits do roll. So I saw those, and I saw some of the fun little Easter egg type things they've added in the post-credits kingdom. And those are pretty fun for fans of that series.
So they try and get people back for the moons by putting stuff into the game, or?
Oh, I mean, there's like tons and tons of moons that you don't even unlock until after you have beaten Bowser. So there's a lot of stuff to go do afterwards, and there's a whole kingdom that unlocks afterwards as well. So more places to explore, moons to find. But and I think there is, similar to maybe the Wii U and Wii versions of Mario, where there's once you finally get everything, one big super hard level at the end. I suspect that level exists, although I haven't been there, obviously.
Michael, I think, finished all those games. What was that level? Did they exist?
Yeah, I finished the Super Mario Galaxy, and I'm trying to recall what the last one was.
I remember
they like to do that.
I remember the Wii U one had a level after you got everything in Super Mario 3D World. You unlocked a level called Champion's Road, which was like 3 times as long and twice as hard as anything else in the game.
Yeah, they've been doing that since Super Mario World, though, with what was it called?
Like the Star World?
The Special Star Road, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm fairly certain that is there. They definitely hint about, there's another kingdom you could go to that you haven't been to yet. Go get more moons. So that's there, and I'll probably go back to it every now and then. It's just a nice little palate cleanser to have in between other stuff. And some of the other stuff I have been working on is I've been playing some Hearthstone now that the new ranked system has gone into effect as of the beginning of March.
Now, is the just the ranked system, or is Year of the Raven also in effect?
Year of the Raven begins when the new expansion releases, so it has not gone into effect yet.
Okay. So we've been talking about, or we had talked about, they're going to change up the ranked system. So starting, did it come into effect knowing your rank from last month, or is this the first month of beginning the new ranking next month? I don't understand.
It started with the end of month rank from last month, and the new way of determining your rank was applied to that.
Okay.
So wherever you were at the end of last month, I think I got to maybe, I don't remember if it was 8. I must have gotten to 7 because I ended up at rank 11 wild when I started over. That's 4 down from 7, which is the new system. The new system is you lose 4, so I must have been at 7 at some point, although I think I ended at 8.
This was the longest subtraction or addition, depending on how you look at it, I think that has ever occurred on this podcast.
Very likely. And so, that was where I had ended that season. This season started up. There were some issues with ranked queues being disabled because I guess there were some bugs. They sent out some free packs to everyone as compensation for that. And then I started playing, just normally. And I quickly found myself up at 9 in Wild. And then during the Oscars and over lunch periods and stuff, I played, I tried to actually win. I sat down and okay, I'm going to eat this hamburger and pay attention to this Hearthstone and try and win, right? I'm not just going to do my quests. I'm going to try and win. And I very quickly got to rank 5.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, and so now I don't feel a whole lot of compulsion to try and rank up anymore, and it is the 5th of March by my calendar. So, spoilers, we record this a little earlier before we release it, but so in 5 days, I've essentially gotten to as high as I've ever been in Hearthstone. And, I don't know that I'm going to attempt to try and push to Legend, but I definitely, now that I'm at one of those floors, I have the ability to kind of meme and play silly stuff against players who are actually good at the game, as opposed to players who are just, playing stuff that's fun and not necessarily caring that much about winning.
So you can't D-rank below 5?
Right. So just like in the past, they had those. They instituted those floors in the ranks where you couldn't go below 20 and 15 and 10 and 5.
Okay.
Those still maintain in the new system.
I think this proves rank inflation will happen.
It seems very likely. But I mean, I don't know that I care, right?
True.
And also, it does require you to play to get those back up. So if someone decides, oh, I hit legend and now I'm just going to go play in casual or whatever, and you don't, or just do arena or whatever, right? And you don't pay attention to ranked at all, you will eventually, over the course of a couple months, derank all the way back to 20 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I think it might help stratify the people who play a lot versus people who play not as much. For quests kind of spectrum, which I think maybe is a good thing. People that play a lot should probably be higher up on the ladder, even if maybe they aren't quote unquote as good as people who don't play as much. But the as we've always sort of said, getting high ranks in Hearthstone is less about being good at the game than it is playing a lot of the game. So
above like rank 15.
Right, totally. Like there's, being good will get you to the base level somewhere, but in order to get high rank, you also have to play a lot, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and that was a surprise to me. Like I was amazed how quickly I got there. And not even on a win streak the whole way. So
nice.
Yeah, that's kind of been it. I've been dabbling with Civ still as well. I've been trying to do a religious victory, which is damn near impossible, it feels like. That's kind of been it.
Is that kind of the part of the game? Because I remember it took till the second expansion in Civ 5 to really get somewhere with the religious, like adding missionaries and stuff like that. People of faith, all the like faith stuff really came in later. Is that kind of ignored part of the system, or is it?
Well, so faith existed. Faith didn't exist until the first expansion in Civ 5, and then yes, like you said, it added a bunch of those systems. The systems existed in base Civ 6. They were enhanced a little bit by some of the new stuff they added in Rise and Fall, which is the expansion. But I don't know that they enhanced them that greatly. It's just one of the victory conditions I haven't done yet, so I figured I would try it out. But it is really tough. Those AI civs can just like rush religion out so quickly, and they rush it if you try to do it, right? It's not clear to me, but whenever I'm trying to found a religion, I have never been able to found the first religion. Someone always founds it before me. Even when I'm trying to rush it. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, or I'm trying too much to focus on barbarians or something. Unclear. But, I don't think it's necessarily going to be me losing this game. It's just a matter of it's going to take a lot of time for me to get all those missionaries and go convert all those various towns. So
nice. I think this is a good spot for our new little primer moment with Michael. Michael, are you a big 4Xer or no? I don't know the answer to this.
Ooh, that's a good question.
4Xer, I'm not familiar with the term. Or maybe I recognize it and just don't recognize it by the term.
A 4X is a type of game. I believe the X's are explore, expand, exterminate, and what's the last one? There's a fourth X.
They're explore, expand,
exploit, and exterminate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exterminate.
Yes.
I didn't think exterminate was one of them, but now that you said them in that order, I think you're right.
I'm fairly certain it is. Yeah. So you explore the map. You you expand your empire. You exploit the natural resources around you, and you exterminate your enemies.
Civ,
right. So
Age of Empires.
Right, grand strategy style games like Crusader Kings, Civ, like a lot of there's space versions of these games like Galactic Civilizations and stuff like that. All kind of fall under this category. RTS stuff like Age of Empires is kind of a hybrid.
Oh yeah. Star Wars had a Empire at War.
Yeah, games like StarCraft do not really fall under it because they're too.
You think Age of Empires was not 4X enough?
It's kind of a high. Age of Empires is kind of half and half. It's in the middle somewhere because of the real time nature of it. It's hard to know.
True. Yeah.
The traditional 4X game is not real time, but that doesn't mean it can't be.
Fair enough.
Okay, yeah. I know the type of game now, but no, StarCraft is probably as close as I've gotten.
Okay.
Yeah, they. I know they're a type of game that are like they get into me sometimes. Like Civ especially has that kind of hook.
One more turn, baby.
They really just want to just play one more. I need to just capture this city. Okay, I can do it in like 2 turns. Okay, all right, it's just like I need one more horse unit. Just give me like 4 turns. Okay, and then I'll just get this city. All right, well now the city's rebelling. I need to like quell the rebellion, give that like 4 or 5 turns, and then this harbor is almost done. Just like 2 more turns, and then all of a sudden you look at the clock and it's 3 a.m.
Whoever comes up with a way to make like the end turn computer phase go faster is going to just be rich beyond their wildest dreams. Because the thing that makes you fall asleep while you're playing a 4X game is like, yeah, I know it's just 3 more turns until I get that piece of tech. And then I'll get my science, I'll set up my new tree, and then I'll go to bed. And you like hit enter twice, and then the computer turn, because it has to process 8 other civs and all these other movements and on the board. And once you can see the whole map, it has to move everything so you can see it. And so it like takes 2 or 3 minutes, and then that's when you hit the second time, and then and like then you wake up the next morning with a cramp in your neck.
And I will say that Civ 6 is a little bit better about some of that. You can definitely set some of the options and stuff such that it doesn't force you to follow every move that the opponents are doing.
Oh, that's good.
So it'll just be the stuff that's on your screen that is revealed will move.
That cuts down
and the rest of it will
sure.
process it quite quickly. Yeah, and especially in the early turns where you can't see anyone anyway because you only have like a scout and a warrior, and you just have your one little town or 2 little towns. You can just hit end turn and stuff will process quite quickly.
Nice.
What ends up taking the most time is once you have a fair number of units, the units have to be doing something every turn, and that's the part that takes forever.
Yeah, it's true. One of the reasons when I'm on
I guess to be clear,
when I'm on
they don't have to be doing something, but they should be doing something, right?
If you want to advance, they should be doing something.
Right, yes, exactly.
Well, sometimes when I know I'm going to go on a Civ bender, I'm like, I'm not going to do military this game. It's just too many units.
It is a lot of units.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, have delved a little more Layton. And I've actually... Okay, this is a complicated way to talk about a new game. But a game I'm playing, FTL, who you guys might have heard of, Faster Than Light. The company that made it is Sunset Games, something like that. They have a new game coming out called Into the Breach. Have you heard of it?
Subset games,
I think it's Subset Games.
Subset. Yeah, that's right. I actually have the page up.
There you go. Into the Breach. Has anybody heard about this thing?
I have heard a fair amount about it. I watched a little bit of some streams of people playing it earlier in the week.
Yeah. So just to be upfront, I have probably about 50-ish hours in FTL already. I bought that as a launch title when it came out. I was really, really into it. I thought it looked super cool, and I'll explain it in a second, but Into the Breach is made by those same guys that I have 50 hours in their other game, and given that we've talked about a lot of mech combat on this podcast, and we had that awesome interview with the BattleTech guys, this looks like BattleTech Light that's coming out, like a whole different take on mech combat, kind of like in the front mission genre from the old Nintendo days.
Yeah, I think Front Mission is a good analogy for it. Also, I've heard it compared to Advance Wars in some ways, and what's the other mech kind of combat game I've heard it compared to? I don't remember.
Smaller version of Mech Commander, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely has a fair amount in common with FTL, even though it may not seem that way on the surface.
Yeah, so the Advanced Wars comparison, I think, comes in because of the look. It's kind of like bubbly and still kind of 8-bitty, not 16-bit maybe. And the look,
and there is a combat grid, and you move your units around on the grid.
Yeah. looks really cool, and I encourage people to watch videos about it. It seems like it's very complicated. I haven't played it yet. I'm likely going to break down and buy it because, like I said, I've been playing FTL again because of this Into the Breach, trying to stave off my desire to purchase and break my rules about buying things not on sale. But FTL's so good. So it's kind of like a roguelike, I think, in the vein of you do runs, right?
Right. And Into the Breach is also run-based.
Run-based game. So in FTL, which is it's a game where you manage a crew and weapon systems on a ship as you travel from beacon to beacon in space, trying to escape a rebel armada and bring like a special data or chip or whatever to your fleet. And you have to go through a bunch of sectors of beacons, and you have fuel, and you have to try and not run out of fuel. And you have missiles, and if you have a missile weapon on your ship, you could run out of missiles for it. And your ship has hull points, and if you run out of those, you're dead. And if there's very complicated systems in place, and everything happens in real time with a pause button. So you can kind of like pause, give orders, think about what you're going to do next. Make sure that all your weapons are lined up and targeted, and then unpause and let the system go through its real-time computations, like weapons reload in 15 seconds, real-time, not in pause, that sort of stuff. And that game is, I've forgotten, brutal.
Yes. I think that was what eventually caused me to stop playing it after I had enough really good runs torpedoed by just really ridiculously bad stuff going on.
Yeah, so last night I was in a run, and I made it to Sector 5 with like 90% hull, 3 new weapons, extra crew members, and I'm like, yes, this is going really good. And then all of a sudden, 4 beacons in a row, dead crew member, dead crew member, dead crew member.
Yep.
Space Wheel's coming on.
Yep.
Oh, God, yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, you guys have all been looking at Into the Breach. What are your thoughts? It looks amazing. I've been reading articles about it, and given my love of FTL, even if it's close, it looks really good. It doesn't look like BattleTech to me. We played a lot of hours of BattleTech together and through the beta. That's a different thing than this. This is much more Final Fantasy Tactics style combat.
Yeah, and I think that's what draws me to it. I loved some of those FF Tactics games. Plus the 16-bit style of the art. I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, the game is purely turn-based this time, so there's no mystery there, with regards to the real-time actions or whatever. And since it's turn-based, and since you can see the order that things will happen in, you have complete freedom to just sit and ponder your moves and what you're going to do with your little set of units.
Do they have
in order to fight back?
Do they have an actual order tracker, or do you just mean
Yes.
Everything that's happening?
Every action taken by the enemy is revealed in advance.
So you can see it like off to the side?
There's like a button you can hover over that will show you which enemies are going to act in which order.
Oh, wow. And they always, like, you move and shoot, and they shoot and move, right?
I don't know exactly how that works, but everything is preordained. There's no randomness in that.
I miss those types of games, man. Like, the ability, and I think it was FF10, to kind of just, like, plot out what was going to happen and what your like moves were going to do and how they affected when you were going to go. I miss stuff like that. That doesn't happen anymore.
And since damage values are also static in this game, there's no mystery about whether you'll be able to survive hits or whether you'll be able to take them. The only somewhat random thing that I've seen is there's a percentage at the top of the screen that you can affect by getting bonuses and stuff as you play that can allow your cities to survive a damaged attack from an enemy. So sometimes the dice will roll on your side and your city won't take damage.
And I think a lot like FTL. So like in FTL, if you use the first ship to survive down to 1 hit point and then repair to full, you get a new ship, right? Like there's like achievements in the game that unlock other things. I think that's the same in Into the Breach too. So it kind of like gives that, like, I'm not going to do a full run. I'm just going to do this run to try and get my ship to like shoot 3 missiles all at the exact same moment so I get this achievement and unlock another ship. And then I'm just going to kill my run and start over with the new ship.
And so, yeah, there definitely are things you carry over between runs. You carry over a pilot. There's a time travel conceit that allows you to carry things over from one run to the other. And then there are different sets of mechs, essentially, that you can unlock. Like you said, by accomplishing various tasks, which are laid out that you can go find out what those tasks are. And then each set of mechs have different abilities. They don't all play the same. And then there's an option to just randomly select any group of 3 of the ones that you have available. So, I think the game apparently has quite a bit of strategic depth for people looking to get into that.
Awesome.
Very
yeah,
cool.
and I'd say the same about FTL too. If people are into that, it seems like much more unforgiving in terms of the random nature of it. But if you kind of like those roguelike style things, it can be really fun. It can. If you can lose yourself in not getting, it's weird for me to say this, but if you cannot get frustrated with
that game can definitely be frustrating. It's like, I just need like 2 more fuel and I'll be good. And it's like no fuel for 15 systems and then you just lose.
Multiple runs where you just run out of fuel and hope that the tanker comes by before the rebels get you. Yeah.
Yep. But for what it is also worth, FTL is on, I think, every system imaginable. You can get it on phones, tablets, Steam, every computer marketplace I think that exists, consoles. Actually maybe not consoles. Almost everywhere that exists, you can get FTL, and it is great in all of those places, is my understanding. I know it's currently only available on Windows PC. They've said Mac and Linux PCs are coming next, and then who knows after that. But I wouldn't be too surprised if this eventually came to tablets and phones.
Yeah,
in the coming years.
It's sized for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, with the turn-based nature and stuff, it's very easy to click and drag and all that kind of stuff. So
nice. Well, since getting back from my trip, I also have just been organizing the office a bit. I mean, there's been boxes of stuff that need to get moved in here since it got finished. And while organizing years worth of unorganized comics, because I haven't organized since probably a year or so before moving, I've been binging The Expanse, you guys. Have you heard of this?
Okay.
What do you... I have.
Okay. I have heard the name, and people have told me I should watch it, but that's kind of it.
Okay. Sci-fi. Sci-fi. The channel. Finally...
The channel Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yes.
They used to have that Battlestar Galactica show, which was pretty fantastic.
Some people liked it.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money on that show to try and make it look really good. And it kind of like shortened the length of time they were able to put it on, but it made for a very critically acclaimed show. And it's taken them a long time to not make Sharknado 4, 5, and 6 style stuff. Not that Sharknado's bad. Sharknado has a place, I think, in this world.
The good bad kind of place.
Sure. I like movies sometimes when you can just sit back and be like, what? But this is not that. This is their return to kind of making award-worthy fiction, I would say. Like spending time and money on... This is a book series, I guess, that is very long and well-respected. And I haven't seen sci-fi like it in a long time. It's kind of pretty hyper-realistic. I'm not sure that all the science holds water. There's a lot of decompression of things that seems to be ignored. But at the same time, I learned a lot about decompression, and some of it's pretty accurate. Like if a bullet went through a ship, it wouldn't just explode or whatever outward. So there's a lot of cool stuff they put time into figuring out. And then there's a lot of, oh, this like magic thing just happened and it's breaking all the rules of physics. And you're like, wait, but don't do that because your show is also nice and cool with physics. But putting that aside, it's cool to see sci-fi drama take itself seriously in a way, you know?
You would say a harder type of sci-fi than some of the more recent offerings maybe from that channel.
Sure, yeah. Like definitely more serious sci-fi, not explosive in the Star Wars vein where it's just huge combat sequences, much more Battlestar realism, very grungy. Things are, you know, cramped and tight and make you nervous, and
maybe more Dune than Star Wars.
Yeah, but less I mean, obviously it's called the Expanse because they're traveling most of the solar system. But at the same time, it seems much more contained than Dune in a way. Obviously, Dune is on one planet, but there's like these big expanses of time and space between the factions, whereas everyone else in space, you're kind of cramped on top of each other because you can't really just live out on a moon. You have to be in a station, you know?
Right.
I don't know. I think that it was something that I wrote off and I wanted to talk about it for half a second. I've probably given it more time than I needed to, but I wanted to mention it because I wrote it off. You know, it was sci-fi. It was not a book series that I had heard of, but surprised me in a way that like I was like, oh, I kind of want to watch the next episode because it wasn't like Star Trek-y in terms of its episodicness. It's very much a narrative-driven show, episode to episode, but the drama of like backstabbing isn't really there either. You just kind of are watching it because it seems very real, like in a scenario where Earth and Mars are so actively populated. It seems like stuff that would happen, and for very, very interesting. Well done.
Is it based on a book?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a huge
series?
book series.
Oh, okay. Is that book series finished?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that there are probably 8-ish books in the series, and
long series.
And I got like 3/4 of the way through it, and some stuff happens to some of the characters. I was like, I wonder what happened in the book to these people, and it's very different. So then I stopped reading about the books because I might want to read them having watched this show. And it sounds like it's completely different. People are alive. People don't exist in the show.
Lightly based on, maybe.
No, it seems very, very based on, but they're definitely like trying to combine down characters. Much of the Game of Thrones, like, man, there are a lot of people here that, you know.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes we need to edit these books to be on a TV.
And sure, and a book can use all the planets in the solar system, and the show's like, well, we probably can't, you know, do graphics for every planet and have this much...
Budgets are only so big.
Yeah, so reimagine the series smaller.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's got me intrigued, and I thought I'd mention it because you guys are nerds and I'm a nerd.
Cool. Yeah, we've definitely seen the ads for it because we watch a different show on Sci-Fi, and they're always plugging one during the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had it recommended to me before, and now I'm kind of interested in those books. Maybe.
Yeah, same here.
I am intrigued by the books as well, having seen the show. I don't know that. Some people might say they don't. I've heard that some people don't like certain actors in the show and it turned them off, or that they read the books and the show turned them off, and all that sort of stuff. And reading the little bit that I did before I had forced myself to stop, I was interested in the books. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that rounds out a nice book-centered
there
episode.
There you go.
Here.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're full circle here.
Yeah, but Andrew, if people wanted to send things to us, where would they do that?
podcasts@wewergamers.com. I want to hear something that somebody else has read, sci-fi, that we should pick up. You know, like, hey, we're late to the party on this Expanse thing. What else are we missing? Because I'm making a March resolution to read more.
Yeah.
We're also on social media. Just look it up. @WeWereGamers, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We don't Snapchat. I probably never will.
Follow us on all that stuff. Get us on the platforms where fine podcasts are distributed, and give us the ratings and the hot likes or whatever you do on those social media.
I don't think that's it. That's not.
I think that's it now. I've pretty much decided that that's
Okay.
it. That's definitely
All
it.
right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well,
So hot likes.
JJ, what do you think about hot likes?